This is the story of 4 high school students who struggled with drug abuse. If it was not for their concerned peers, they may have never received the help they needed.
My name is Josh Connor. I'm a recovered pill user. Back in high school, I was suffering from depression. It was my junior hockey season. First game of the year, I blew out my shoulder. I had to go through an entire shoulder reconstruction. I was supposed to go D1. I was counting on this season. But I was in pain, I was depressed, and I turned to pills. I thought they were supposed to make me happy and take off the ease. I mean, they're called antidepressants, right? It seemed like with every pill that I popped, everything just got worse. But I couldn't feel my shoulder pain anymore, so I thought it was good, so I got hooked. But then I started failing school, I couldn't stay awake, I was becoming a disappointment to my family, friends, and even my girlfriend. But the worst part was, they didn't even know why I was like that. Until one day, my girlfriend found my pills. It started to really make sense to her, and she reached out to my parents. At first, I was angry, but then I got the help that I needed. I was sent to therapy for both my drug abuse issues and my shoulder. I got back to hockey as soon as I could. I played my senior season. If I had stayed on the drugs, I would have never played, and I probably wouldn't be here today.
My name is Lauren Hanley, and I am a recovered vape user. I started my 7th grade year. All of my friends were doing it. My big sister was doing it too, so what could the harm have been, right? I mean, they were all fine. I would be too, right? I thought it was just all fun until I started to go through an entire puff bar a day. I always felt dizzy and like I needed to sleep. My grades started dropping. I was going into 10th grade and I was already an addict. I couldn't live without it. I started to reach for it more than I reached for my phone. I lost my starting position on my soccer team because I could barely function through a practice. My best friend Mia saw this happening and became concerned. She confronted me and told me I should stop. Mia never uses vapes, so I thought she was just biased because what would she know? It won't hurt me. I was wrong. I thought it just tasted good, but I forgot that there is about a full pack of cigarettes worth of nicotine in just one pod. It made me moody. I couldn't concentrate, and since I was so young, it was slowing down my brain functions. It took me about 2 months to listen to Mia and her constant nagging. Thank God I did. She saved me. I quit, I got back to my life, and even got my spot back on my soccer team. No thanks to vaping.
My name is Linus Apalek, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. I always grew up with alcohol. It was down like water in my house. My dad was an alcoholic, and well, my mom wasn't around much, so he was the only adult I had to look up to. I took my first sip of alcohol when I was only 8. While most kids would have to sneak it, mine was handed to me and basically forced down my throat. I was a wimp if I didn't take it, he said. Him being the only parent I had, I didn't want to disappoint. And quickly, like my father, I got addicted too. Any minor inconvenience that occurred in my day-to-day life followed with a shot. I always heard alcohol is bad. I just wasn't aware how bad. My friend Josh was like family to me growing up. He knew about my dad and he knew about me. He didn't think much of it until he started becoming more educated. In 10th grade, he reached out to a school counselor who later called me down. I remember that feeling sitting in that chair with a corporal, teacher, and a DCFS representative on the phone. When I confirmed Josh's story, they immediately put me in rehab. They taught me that alcohol has the worst effects on my underage brain than it does in adults because my brain wasn't done growing yet. Those were the absolute worst months of my life. The withdrawals were beyond any pain I had felt, and that pain showed me how toxic my lifestyle was before Josh got me help. The doctors say I probably wouldn't have been alive today if I drank another year. My dad was not a good role model, and he peer pressured me into it. Just because these dangerous events were occurring in my house doesn't mean it had to affect me. My biggest regret is not reaching out to someone the first time a glass was handed to me. I could have saved myself.
My name is Madison Romali, and I'm a recovered marijuana abuser. I lost my twin sister in a car accident my sophomore year of high school. I was driving. Every day since, I have lived with the weight on my shoulders of taking the life of my best friend. I grew clinically depressed and very suicidal. My boyfriend at the time introduced me to marijuana. He told me, oh, it's just medical stuff, and it won't hurt you, and if the doctors prescribed it, it's gotta be safe. He would assure me. So, to not disappoint him, I started, and once I started, I didn't stop. For those few minutes of the high, it didn't hurt anymore. I didn't think of my sister. What I didn't know is what was happening in my brain. Yes, when it's prescribed by a doctor, it's okay, but mine wasn't prescribed, it was recreational, and it was harmful. It began to affect my motor skills and my verbal abilities. School was no longer easy for me. I was previously an A+ student. All of this changed when I invited my best friend Kelsey to smoke with me. She knew that I was using it, but she just didn't realize how much. She told me I was in danger because of how addicted I was. I told her, "You're crazy, it's medical," but she didn't believe me, and she reached out to a teacher. The next day, sure enough, the resource officer was checking my bag. They ended up finding my stash, and they put me in a program made for teens with drug problems. At first, I thought it was stupid and a waste of my time. They didn't know what I was going through. Until we started having group talks, and they did know. The kid to my left lost his sister, too, and to my right, she lost her parents. Together, we recovered, and I owe it all to Kelsey. I broke up with my boyfriend and found new ways to cope with my depression. I turned to my friends and I started to journal. Marijuana sent me back 2 years, and quitting was the best choice I could have ever made.
I saved my life.
Today I learned how to say,
No.
and you can save yours by saying no the second you are offered any kind of drug.
It doesn't matter who you disappoint.
Who else is doing it, or who pressures you into it?
Your life is your only priority, so just say no.
More than 4,000 high schoolers die every year in America from alcohol addictions.
Almost 10% of high schoolers misuse drugs.
And over 3 million high schoolers in America alone use vapes. Don't be another statistic, just say no.
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 While all of the events in this video are fictional, the stories are very real and occur much more often than you may realize. Myself and the rest of SADD Club wants to thank everyone who participated in our annual Red Ribbon Week. Remember that your life is important and every decision you make today will set the path for the rest of your life. If you see anyone who is at risk or you yourself are at risk, please notify a trusted adult immediately. You never know when it will be too late. Getting help is not a coward move. It makes you brave. Hopefully we have taught you lessons this week that you will carry for life. We are WRHS SADD Club and we pledge to be drug-free. Remember, bulls, always say no to drugs.